I've been arguing that one of the most important, maybe the most important race in the entire St. Louis metro area is in St. Charles County. Hey, good afternoon. Mike Ferguson in here for Richard West right here on St. Charles Patriot Radio. And that race that I'm talking about is the race for county executive. Let's be real. Jane Pushkar, of course, here. Let's be real. The primary race is going to decide who the next county executive is in St. Charles County.
Yes, sir.
And we have one of the three contenders with us right now. Now, if you saw the News Talk STL debate, you've already seen Jason Law debate Bill Eigel and Steve Ellman. So now we get to go a little more in depth with Jason at this point in the campaign because we're just weeks away from it.
A little bit more one-on-one. Put him on the hot spot.
That's right. That's what we do. That's what we do, Jason.
Good deal. Let's go.
Yeah. So I've got some questions for you.
You go for it.
Jason, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Some of them aren't very hard. As a people manager myself, I found that past performance is typically a good indicator of future performance. And that's why we're all here, is because of future performance. So I want to ask you, I found on the Missouri website that you had introduced, I believe, no, I'm sorry, strike that, dump it.
Do you roll again?
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Okay. I find that past performance is an indicator of future performance. So I'd like to ask you a couple questions about some of the things that you've accomplished in your I guess your position as a lieutenant colonel or light colonel, as they call it, which I always think is a funny name for it. But I wanted to ask, what things are you most proud of?
What I'm most proud of is just serving the community as a whole. It comes back to my family. My dad's a 46-year veteran of the Bridgeton Police Department. My brother's a 25-year veteran of the Florissant Police Department. My little baby sister, I got a job with St. Louis County and the professional staff, so she worked there for several years. We just love to serve, and my mom's a retired nurse. But I co-founded something called the St. Louis Gateway Strike Force back in around 2015, where I was given a set of money to rehab an old warehouse and then bring the best undercover detectives that work on violent crime together into one place. So that meant I had to go out to the area police chiefs, get their detectives, and make sure that they understood that this was for the entire region. And that wasn't an easy task, getting all these police chiefs involved.
I think they call that herding cats.
It is, because everybody's got their own ideas on strategy.
Yeah.
So we told them what our strategy was, and we brought together 150 of the best detectives and agents in the St. Louis region with 50 different agencies, including the State Highway Patrol, all the federal agencies, and all the local police departments. And it's worked out well. If I never do anything in my career again, I knew then that I helped bring together a force that was going to help with violent crime in the St. Louis region.
I didn't say this earlier, but I am a true fan of the servants in blue, and that's what I will call them, the people in law enforcement that help serve us and also protect us. So I love the fact of doing something on that grand scale, bringing people together, collaboration, and actually, guess what? Accomplishing a goal. Yeah. Wow. That's pretty huge, especially when you're in politics. So I think you've got a proven track record doing things like that. The thing that I would like to do now is go into the future.
Okay.
So how do you feel about the campaign? How do you feel that it's going? Tell me about some of the pushback that you get and how you would address that pushback.
So right now we're getting very little pushback from the residents. So we've knocked about 7,000 doors with about 13,000 to go.
Huh.
And what we're getting at the doors is people want change. They don't want career politicians. And they think Steve's been there too long and Bill's done his thing for a long time. And they're looking for change. That's why if you look at all the polls, they're almost 70% undecided. Whatever poll you look at, it's around 40% undecided, and then another 30% that haven't picked a candidate yet, but they think they know who they want.
Who's doing the polls?
It's Steve's polls, Bill's polls, all of them.
So not like a Pew poll or anything that important?
It's just all the different polls out there show just a ton of undecideds.
Wow, that's incredible. Imagine at this point in time, people being undecided. I would think that battle lines would pretty much be drawn, but then I've seen the same thing that you're talking about, the 40% being undecided. But again, how do you feel like the campaign's going? I mean 7,000 doors is a lot of doors. I know for a fact because I've knocked a few in my day, and I don't know that I got to 7,000 with this amount of heat going on. It's brutal. It is brutal.
I have a ton of volunteers. So we had 50 last Saturday. We have 80 scheduled for this Saturday. And when you get that
80. Whoa. That's a lot. Our campaign's hitting on all cylinders. Commercials go up last night. Mailers are going out. Texting will be starting. All these different things, part of a campaign. And we're getting a lot of positive feedback. It's another question I was going to get to is what are the pillars of your campaign? I always call it like a three-legged step stool. You always have media. You always have, door knocking and written or verbal or mailers.
Yeah, I think they're all important. But if you're not out there talking to the people, knocking on the doors yourself as well, you don't get that sense of what's really going on with the people of St. Charles County.
What are the people telling you?
They want change. They're telling us that the taxes are too high. They don't like what's going on with crime, and they don't like what's going on with apartments.
Okay, but were they saying anything about data centers?
Yeah, that came up, but not at door to door.
Huh. What is your stand on data centers?
It's the same. I grew up in North St. Louis County.
So did I.
And I grew up on Coldwater Creek. I fought cancer. My friend had the same cancer, and then her father died of it, and same cancer. We all had the same cancers. Data centers, I'm not scared of the future, but they need to make sure that we're not giving corporate handouts to Google, that the environment's pristine, and that we're not paying for their energy.
Where are we going to put these data centers? I know that people that have them or was proposed to be in their backyard are irate, and I can't say that I blame them. So where are where can we put these?
I don't think they're good right now for St. Charles County because they can't. The companies cannot prove those three facts yet.
Okay.
They can't prove that they can do it without government money. They can't prove that the environment's going to be clean, and they can't prove that they're going to pay for their own energy.
I just watched a video. It talked about the aquifer down at the lake. These data centers need a huge amount of water. Yeah. And guess where you can find all this water? It's the aquifer underneath the lake and the area down there. So, that seems like it'd be a great place maybe to pipe water from. But if you do that, you're going to deplete all the natural resources down there. But that's a whole another story. So you're not against data centers, but you're not you don't want those in St. Charles County.
I don't want them. I don't want them in the state of Missouri until we figure out that those three things that I said. If it's going to poison our kids and our grandkids and have to deal with what I dealt with growing up as a kid, I'm not going to ever support those.
Have you had a lot of, speaking of growing up as a kid, you're in politics.
Yeah.
You've kind of been in politics during your law enforcement years. What drove you to this position?
You know what? I saw politicians talking about all the things that they can do, but never did. And I think we've all seen that in politics. And so
be careful. You're one now.
I'm not a career politician. I did a part-time job while being a lieutenant colonel in a large police department. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do what I say, and I'm going to say what I do. So I ran as mayor on lowering taxes, cutting crime, and cutting bureaucracy. And in those 4 years, we cut property taxes by 46% by paying off debt early, becoming a debt-free city. We invested millions into the police department, and we cut crime by 45% over 4 years, becoming the top 10 safest city in the state of Missouri. And then we streamlined our permitting process, which led to $500 million in private investment.
Okay, tell me more about, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
It's easy for us to say, I cut bureaucracy.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
So there was a part in our process that was just old and outdated. It was called the ARB and the DRB. They were review boards by volunteer citizens that would come in, and they were supposed to look at one thing, but they never did. They looked at all these different things, and it would slow down the process to the point where if they needed to break ground by October because of the winter coming, they couldn't sometimes. It would delay it sometimes 2, 3, 4 months. So on day one, I got rid of that.
Okay. We're here talking with Jason Law, who is a candidate for county executive for St. Charles County. Well, tell me a little bit more about how you paid off the debt. You talked about that too. How did you pay off the debt?
So interest rates were low in the prior board. My prior board, I was an alderman. So I ran for mayor, and that board, when I was running for mayor, wanted to extend the bonds out 20 years because interest rates were low. And I said, well, what are we going to do with that money? We don't need to build anything. And they said, well, interest rates are low and we'll be cash flush. Well, we're not a bank. Government's not a bank. Should never be a bank. They don't do really many things good. But so when I became mayor, I also ran some people on to be councilman. And the first thing came up was that debt. And we paid off debt about 3.5 years early, which accounted to about $1.6 million per year of taxpayer money that my residents got to keep.
That's fantastic. Now, have they turned back around and wanted to take out more bonds? Because that's what happens in the school district. We paid off, when I was on the board, we paid off, I don't know, forget how many millions of dollars in bonds, and thought what wonderful things we were doing. The minute that the Liberals got on the board, they were all about taking out more bonds. In fact, they right now have Proposition O, which I call Proposition and Proposition H. So tell me a little bit about that. I mean, I know that you paid down the debt, but is there a movement now to get more bonds?
We paid off the debt. When I left Lake St. Louis, we had the highest credit rating in Lake St. Louis history, highest cash on hand, and no debt. And it's still there.
What are you guys doing right out there? I mean, come on.
Well, basically, we just don't overspend. We contract out a lot instead of hiring full-time people. And that, most of your budget is personnel.
It's 80% in the school district budget, yes.
It always fluctuates in between 75 and 90.
Wow.
So we just made sure that we were strict on what we were doing, and we didn't go outside those parameters. And the city's bank account started to rise, and we were able to make sure that we cut taxes. We invested millions into the police department. So when some people want to cut taxes, they want to cut services. Well, that's not always a great thing to do. So we were able to do it responsibly.
That sounds perfect. It really does. So I appreciate your candor in all of this. I know that we're going to be coming back here in a few minutes, but in the last bit of the segment that we have on here, what is it that you would like to tell me? Let's say I'm not against Jason Law, but I'm actually probably not for him either.
Right.
I'd say the same to Steve Ellman and also to Bill Eigel. What can you tell me to convince me that I should be voting for Jason Law in this primary?
Well, here's the most important thing. I have a track record of doing things and saying what I do.
Okay.
I don't think the other guys are doing that right now. And I think there's a major difference. And I'm not a career politician. I just want to get things done, do it over a 4 to 8 year period, probably 8, and then let somebody else come. I believe in term limits. I'm not going to make that a career for myself.
You believe in term limits?
Yes.
Did you actually say that?
Yes.
Wow. That's incredible. I hope that you can accomplish that in some shape or form somewhere along the line, whether it be county executive or any other position that you decide to undertake. How do you feel going in? How do you feel about the campaign right now?
We are working it. We're out every day. Like I said, knocking doors, putting up signs, contacting constituents on what their questions are, getting commercials ready, getting, mailers ready, all those things that are part of a campaign. We're running on all cylinders right now.
Fantastic. Mike,
we've got a lot of specific questions to cover because if you're elected to this office, Jason, then obviously law enforcement, your familiarity with that's going to be crucial as well. I think we probably ought to follow up on what would you take from your law enforcement experience as far as the administration goes. And then there are, of course, questions about crime that is growing from the city outward as well. So there's what are you dealing with right now? And then what are you going to be dealing with in a few years as well? So I think, Jane, if it's all right, I think we ought to probably jump on that as well at some point as well. And of course, not too long ago, you had a debate with Bill Eigel and Steve Ellman. Of course, we were part of that here at News Talk STL. I was, along with my co-host from the morning show, Susie Moore, privileged to be able to ask you all some of those questions. If you want to see that, you can go to any of the News Talk STL social media platforms. The video is right there, Rumble or YouTube or Facebook or any of those, and you can check that out. And there's a lot of questions that were covered right there. So we're with Jason Law running for county executive here in St. Charles County. So So he's going to hang around with us just a little bit longer. We've got more questions to jump into. But before we do that, let's go to the website, social media. People want to get in touch. They've got questions. They just want to learn more about your platform. What's the way to do it?
My website's lawforstcharlescounty.com. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, all of the media outlets. Come learn about me. You'll see that I do what I say and I say what I do. And I can't wait to serve you guys for 4 more years.
Yeah, because we've got the election coming up just here in just a few weeks. I mean, it's right around the corner. So we've got more.
19 days.
19 days.
How many hours?
Yeah, exactly. So we've got more with Jason Law, candidate for county executive, right here on St. Charles Patriot Radio on News Talk STL. Okay, who's ready for that primary election day?
I am.
Is right around the corner.
I want it to be here.
Weeks away. I mean, and here's the thing. In St. Charles County, we know that the primary is really what matters here. I mean, you don't want to, I guess, overlook the general, but the reality is this is a red county and the primary is what matters. I'm Mike Ferguson from the morning show here, filling in for Richard West here on St. Charles Patriot Radio with Jason Law, running for county executive, and of course, Jane.
And I'm Jane Pushkar.
That's right. So, Jason, let me ask you. You mentioned the experience, and Jane was asking you about basically the administrative and running and the leadership side of law enforcement with with your role, your career with that. When you look at the type of management you'd have to do if elected to the county executive role, what translates there? I mean, what do you say? Okay, I'm not learning from the ground up. This is not from scratch. I've done this, therefore I'm ready to hit the ground running on day one if I'm elected.
Well, here's why I'm good for it. I am a lieutenant colonel in the largest police department in the area. So my decisions are for 1,300 personnel, and I help protect over 1 million people every day. That experience and the experience of being a mayor and understanding budgets, bonds, how to pay off taxes, all those things I can bring together and on day one start running St. Charles County in a more efficient manner. Okay,
one of the things I mentioned earlier is there's obviously an increase in crime throughout the metro area. A lot of it is kind of emigrating out of the city, but the reality is that in St. Charles County, there are hot spots. There are issues in different areas here. What is it that St. Charles County, at least from your relationship with law enforcement there, if you're the executive, what do you have to prepare for? I mean, whether it's equipment or whether it's technology or whether it's getting out ahead of trends, what is it that the county government can do to set up, say, the local police or the county police for the best opportunity for success in protecting people in the few years?
Well, what St. Charles County has done well is their police chiefs do work very well together, all of them. And they do something called a task force night. And it's maybe once or twice a month, right? Something that I would build upon on day one. We would say, okay, crime takes the path of least resistance like water. If we set up just 2 nights, the bad guys know pretty quickly. Oh, they're only out Tuesdays and Mondays, so they come other days. We need to make sure that we're learning what they're doing and setting up certain strategic networks to deal with that.
Okay, that's great. That's really good to know. I don't know if you know this, but recently, I'm sure you do, the county council voted on to keep the flock cameras. There's 29 of those in the county. 22 of them are operational, but I'm against flock cameras. I was against, then I was for, then I was against again because I did a little bit more research. Being part of the Tea Party movement, you're probably not old enough for that.
I know what the Tea Party movement is.
Being part of that, that's one of the things that they did was get rid of these cameras that took your license plate number or when you ran a red light or whatever. So tell me your position on flock cameras and why.
Well, red light cameras I fought against in the city of Lake St. Louis. As a policeman, I think those are the worst things. Flock cameras, I love the technology, but flock in general sells the data. I don't agree with that, and I think the legislature needs to do something about that. Now, Genetech camera systems don't sell the data, and I'm not against those. Those that we strategically put up in parks and other places to make sure, child molesters aren't going to your parks because their plates are registered.
I'm all for catching the bad guys.
We catch homicide suspects. We know, for instance, one of our Genetech cameras hit in Lake St. Louis. It was a homicide suspect. Not me. They were able to dispatch the officers quickly and find that guy. It ended up being a tough arrest, but that person wasn't hurting people in Lake St. Louis that night. We do that all over the region. Okay. But there's things set up in place, just like Regis. If I go on the air and I run somebody, right? If I'm running somebody for fun and it's not business, you can be charged with a crime and fired. We've done that where I work. So that's the same type of policies that are set up with the cameras.
But why can't we just tell Flock that you can't sell our data?
Well, that's whoever signs the contracts has to be able to do that. And I don't think Flock would agree to that.
Okay, so then we have to go to Genetec. Do you know what the cost of those things are? I mean, we'd have to trash one set of cameras to bring in another set of cameras.
Well, they're similar in cost. Genetec might be a little more expensive. I think they're just a better product in general. Okay. Flock does not. It has latency. So if it hits the camera, it might be 10 seconds before it gets to dispatch, right? Well, you traveling 90 miles an hour in a car to get away, 10 seconds is a long time.
Well, that's true. But as long as they're going in a straight line, it's pretty easy. They like to get away fast. So they're not, in my mind, they're not going to take bad back roads and things like that. Yeah.
They do.
Okay.
I'm not the police. Somebody would go 90 miles an hour on I-70. Come on. That
I know. Happen, right? It's rough.
Yeah. Have you ever been over 100? Never mind. Because I have. And I was glad none of you guys were there. So you have a lot of tools at your disposal. I am definitely against selling our data. I saw where those Flock cameras will picture somebody just walking down the street. Everybody. So that's an invasion of my privacy. And as I've said many times before, we should be watching our government. Our government should not be watching us. And so I am totally against those. Is that something that you can do on day one?
What, get rid of them?
Yeah. Get rid of them or go to the camera that doesn't sell the data.
I could do that in day one. I know all the people in the industries to make sure that happens.
Okay, this wouldn't be a hard change for you to do.
No,
well, that's good.
Just some money.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, okay, so the Flock cameras, they're needed. I'm not saying that they're not needed. I'd love to catch a predator before they get into the park to do something nefarious. I'm all for that. But let's talk about how the overgrowth of these apartments have contributed to crime in St. Charles County. Have you seen that? Or, the people that you work with, have you seen that? Do you know if our crime rates have gone up because of them crossing the bridge or hitchhiking out here? What are your thoughts?
Well, I'll start with apartments first.
Okay.
Apartments, I've been on the record. I'm the longest one on the record that I put a ban on apartments in Lake St. Louis in June of 2022. This is the 4th birthday of it. Mr. Ellman called me silly for doing that, but yet he just did one 2 weeks ago. So
I saw that.
Yeah, so I love what we're doing. We ran candidates in Dardenne Prairie. Keith Wademan, first thing he did was do a 12-month ban on apartments. I ran people in the O'Fallon city council races. They're going to have a ban on apartments. So we're already, and I'm a candidate. I'm not an elected official right now at all. And we're moving more candidates in the right direction than the guy that's the highest elected office in St. Charles County.
That's fantastic. There are way too many apartments here in St. Louis. But what about the overcrowding too? What can the county executive do to stop some of the infrastructure problems? And by the infrastructure problems, I mean the problems with traffic. As you know, Steve Ellman has proposed a development along Highway N, which in a lot of people's minds is really going to start a lot more traffic problems. What are your thoughts on what the county executive can do to decrease the infrastructure demands?
I was a little mad that they did their master plan right before an election, right? They spent almost $500,000 on a master plan when they knew there would be new officials coming in, and they didn't give them a voice at all.
But isn't that what politicians do?
You know what? Sometimes you just have to have a little respect for your community, and I think it was lacking there in that particular area. A master plan can guide the county on how things are going to happen over the next 10 years. You can modify it after 5 years. Otherwise, you can scrap it, but then you're spending another $500,000 taxpayer money.
We're here speaking with Jason Law, who is a candidate for St. Charles County executive, and questioning him on a lot of the issues that face St. Charles County right now. Right now, at least I've heard that there's how many people in the county total?
I would say around 425,000.
And how many law enforcement officers do we have?
Oh, you're probably talking in the neighborhood of 1,000 total in St. Charles County.
Okay. So we are, I guess, fairly well represented compared to other places as far as law enforcement.
Yeah, we're right along that, 1,000. It's a good measurement.
Okay. Have you spent any time down on Main Street? I'm really pivoting here. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. What are your thoughts on Main Street? At one point in time, the mayor, which the position you held in Lake St. Louis, the mayor of St. Charles City wanted more bars and more entertainment down at the one end of Main Street. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you saw kind of what happened during COVID, right? Mm-hmm. St. Louis County shut down, and everybody from St. Louis County came onto Main Street, and it became a fiasco, right? We got to be ready for those types of things. You can't just say things without understanding what's going to happen when it does come, right? He's not prepared. He clearly was not prepared. We need to be prepared for those types of things. St. Charles City is its own place, but having closing times at 11 instead of 1:30, simple things.
Yeah, nothing good happens after midnight. Yeah. That's what my parents used to always tell me. Nothing happens good.
So I think there's things that you can put in place. And then I would call that mayor and say, hey, we're getting a lot of problems out there. Can I help? Can I send resources? That's what the big county government's supposed to do, is help municipalities with resources as well.
Right, exactly. So other than the topics that we've talked about, be it flock cameras, be it apartments, we've covered a lot of ground, Jason. Data centers. What other issues do you think there might be facing St. Charles that you as county executive would like to address? Or are there any?
No, there are. There's plenty. The infrastructure in Western St. Charles County is terrible. I think we need to make sure that we're devoting money and resources to make sure the road systems can handle the population we have now. And then we need to look at our zoning requirements as well. What is density levels in all these different areas of the master plan?
Okay, what are your thoughts on that? Because the people down around Defiance want those 3 to 5 acre lots, and there's a movement to cut that down in that part of the county.
Yeah, part of what you're talking about is there's a demand to go into St. Charles County.
Yes.
It may be one of the top desired destinations. And so it's not a matter of if St. Charles County grows, how does it grow?
Exactly.
I believe in keeping you look up at St. Paul, the beautiful area it is, or you look down near Defiance. Those are areas that people love to enjoy. We do not need to overbuild in our pristine areas. We need to make sure that we have zoning requirements that protects the landowners as well. I mean, because they're the ones selling the land to have it built, and then the builders are trying to put as much on there because the land's so expensive.
Right.
You can tell. I mean, I didn't get any of the home development money. You
didn't?
No.
I'm glad to hear that.
So that's very important.
So can the county executive do anything about the TIFs or the tax incentive funding for developers? Because I know they're always, when they pick up a piece of land, they're looking for somebody to help pay for it with them, other people's money.
So for a TIF example, the St. Charles County executive has to sign off on a TIF no matter where it's at.
Ah, that's good to know. And so you're coming out against?
I'm not for TIFs.
At all?
No, there's other incentives that I'm not against, like something called a TDD. It's a transportation district, right? So if there's a development, it helps. The sales tax goes to pay for the new roads in that area. And then once those bonds are paid off, that cent comes off, or whatever, half a cent or whatever it might be, comes off and the roads are built.
Okay.
A CID, community improvement district. If starts to get overwhelmed with crime, you can put a CID around there, and that 1 cent can help hire more policemen to guard that particular area. So there's certain tools and mechanisms to keep things safe and keep things looking clean and good.
I was just down at the lake yesterday, and they used to have a toll bridge down there, and so what you're talking about just kind of rang true. It's like, once it's done, take it away. So we're driving over this toll bridge, and all of a sudden my husband says, "Where's the toll?" And we found out that what happened was they paid off the bonds and that they got the loan for to build the bridge. And it's gone. So now you can cross over that toll bridge.
And
gave me hope. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool, even though it was only, $75 or $1, whatever it was. But they paid it off, and that's fantastic. In the time that we have left, which isn't not very long, what is it that you want to tell the voters as your parting words?
I am a person that believes in keeping communities safe. I have a proven track record. Cutting taxes, I have a proven track record. Getting rid of bureaucracy in government, I have a proven track record. All those things, I say it and I do it. My other opponents do not. And it's clear on what's going on in this campaign. So that's the main part that I want people to know is I say what I do and I do what I say. I'll give you a little story. Costco was coming into either Lake St. Louis or O'Fallon, right? We cut our property taxes. They looked at both locations and they go, we're going in Lake St. Louis. They got lower tax base. We want to make sure that our price is the lowest when people come to Costco. So they chose us over O'Fallon.
That's fantastic. It's good to know. Mike, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're wrapping up here with Jason Law. We'll give that website out here in just a moment. And one of the things is obviously it's going to be a Republican primary that decides this race in this case right here. So you've got basically three different approaches to being a Republican or a conservative candidate. I'd say all three of you are conservative, but very different approaches to conservatism with essentially three different backgrounds and three different resumes to it. That's what makes this race so fascinating to me. So I say, let's go ahead and give out that website again. And I think you've done a lot as far as differentiating yourself from the other candidates here as well. But what they will make a decision on is based on experience and what type of experience that it's at, so I guess put out that website one more time and we'll let people look you up.
lawforstcharlescounty.com. And I'm all over Facebook. Same moniker, lawforstcharlescounty.com. Reach out if you want to ask any questions. I contact constituents on a regular basis and I'm open and free.
And don't touch that dial because we'll be right back.
Yeah, that's
and we're
right.
going to have Travis Wilson,
State
District
Representative Travis Wilson, because there's a lot going on in the state government, even though they're not in session.
Thank you, Jason, so much
Thank you so much
for coming in and talking to us.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, from the county race to the state politics, Jane, as you know, just because the legislative session ends does not mean that the work stops.
It does not stop.
I am Mike Ferguson, pinch hitting for Richard West today, and one of Richard's colleagues now joins us, and that is State Representative Travis Wilson. I know there's a lot going on. A lot of people think, oh, you guys are just on a big long vacation now. Well, it's election season, but there's still a lot of work that's actually happening because there was a pretty good conservative session that got done this year. There was a lot of things that I think Republicans can say, hey, we checked that box. We made a promise, because you can't always say that.
Compared to other years, yeah, you guys did great.
But then there are still some things that still need to go. You obviously go back to the drawing board for the next session, but some of the groundwork's been laid as well.
Yes, exactly right. So we're going to talk to Travis. Travis is a candidate for House District 106 in the Missouri State. You were first elected in 2022, correct?
That is correct. Absolutely.
And you had some primary opponents, I understand, during that time. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So 2022 was the first year I ran. And before we get too far into that, I do want to say thank you both for the opportunity, Mike, Jane, and of course our show host, Richard West, who's out today.
Richard who?
Richard Wild West.
Wild West. Okay.
Absolutely. So very thankful for my friendship with Richard and for so many of my colleagues in the House. And yes, I did run for the first time in 2022, had a 4-way primary, and I was able to come away with 45% of the vote in that primary. And it really comes down to, people have asked, how did you do that well in a primary? And it's very simple. I've been out knocking doors really now for 5 years, and I knock every year because it's ABC. Always be campaigning. You're always out there trying to make sure that you're not just keeping your name out there, but getting reconnected with your constituents. That's the very best thing about being a state rep, is re-engaging time and again with your neighbors who really become friends over time. And that's really the key. And I always tell people, I want you to reach out to me. This is a partnership. It's not just you elect me and I go to Jeff City and then you never hear from me again. That's really quite the opposite. I want to be engaged. I want people to know how to reach me. And before we go any further, I always tell people, give me a call, 314-540-1965. That's my personal cell phone number.
You want to say that number again?
I certainly do. 314-540-1965. That's my personal cell phone number. And I'm not afraid to put that out there on the air. I'm not afraid to put that in all of my printed material because I want people to know that I'm accessible. I know that in certain instances for a long time, politicians in general or elected leaders in general are not always accessible to their constituents. They're not always accessible to the people that they represent. And I feel like that we should, in fact, be that way. If you're not going to be accessible, if you're not going to be putting your information out there so people can reach you, then I don't think you should run for office.
I do believe that there's a lot more eyes on these campaigns these days than there have been in the past, and I think COVID has a big part to play in that. I'm really happy to see that you're out there and you're always campaigning. I did a little bit of a search on some information on you before you got here, and in the last legislative session, it showed that you had sponsored or you co-sponsored 15 bills. Now, to me, that sounds like quite a few. I mean, knowing how many bills actually get through all the way and get signed, but still, that's I think a very admirable amount. And 5 of those made it out of the House. So I want to ask you, which one of those do you think would have the most positive impact on the people of St. Charles County?
Well, I appreciate that opportunity, Jane. And yes, I'm very proud of the work I'm done. And I'm hoping that the people of St. Charles and District 106 will continue to put their faith in me to allow me to continue that type of work, such as one of the things that we got done this year that was so important was Senate Bill 907. And what happened with Senate Bill 907 is it talks about what we call the abusive website access litigation, or abusive access to website litigation. However, it's got a couple of different names there, but the point is we had business owners, and as a matter of fact, I can reference a couple right there on Main Street in my district in St. Charles. And what happens is they were getting slapped with these lawsuits. And so what happens is you could be slapped with a lawsuit on Monday, and the lawsuit basically says this: we've reviewed your website and you do not have the appropriate ADA compliance information on your website. And so you get that information on Monday. On Tuesday, so you get the information on Monday. On Tuesday, you get slapped with a lawsuit. And so that's what happens. So you get what I should say is you receive the information, or you receive the claim, so to speak, that this has been made. And on Tuesday, you get this follow-up, which is a lawsuit. And they say, if you do not respond, we're going to proceed forward and sue you for something like $100,000.
What is their intent? Is it to put these businesses out of business?
Their intent, it's literally a shakedown. Mm-hmm. And their intent is to, and they'll put this in writing. They'll say, we're going to move forward with this lawsuit, or if you'll settle within 30 days for something like $5,000, we'll drop the suit. And so here's what's been happening. Some business owners, they look at what they've got in the bank. They look at the potential, and this is real. This is a credible threat to their business and livelihood and future. And so they say, okay, I've got enough in reserves. I'll write the check. Mm-hmm. And they do it. And that lawsuit is settled.
All that does is raise prices on Main Street.
There was one lawyer, and I think he was a personal injury lawyer, not even from the St. Louis area.
Correct.
And he was targeting small family-run businesses who don't have corporate lawyers to fight back.
Correct.
That's the story as I recall it.
You have recalled it correctly, Mike. And so I was one of a dozen legislators in both the House and Senate to file legislation on this topic. And I am very proud to tell you we were able to get that as a team. We were able to work together and craft the correct legislation. And just a side note here, sometimes it's not your bill that gets done, but it's a bill that you have filed and somebody else has filed, and you start working together. And as a team, you get the topic across the finish line. That's the most important thing. And that's what I've done time and again. As Ronald Reagan, famously had on his desk, there's no limit to what a man can accomplish as long as he doesn't care who gets the credit. And this is a team sport in Jefferson City, and it's a team sport in St. Charles as well. I'm a team with my constituents. If they have a concern like this, because it was a local constituent who reached out to me and put this on my radar back in November of last year. And once I sat and listened to the stories that he had to tell, and he took an hour telling me, and there were multiple stories. I said, well, we have to do something about this. And so I'm very glad to say we did get something done.
We're here talking with Travis Wilson, Missouri candidate for the State House District number 106. And so that's one thing I wanted to add on to that is that Richard has always said how well the representatives from St. Charles County House and Senate work together. And I think that's probably why we got some things done. Like Ronald Reagan said, if you don't mind who gets the credit. Any other bills that you are particularly happy with or helped get through?
I am. And Richard's absolutely right. It is how we get things done. And especially, being from District 106, the northern half of the city of St. Charles. It's so crucial. One of the things that was instrumental for a change that will be coming to St. Charles County is Senate Bill 1002. And that is the bill.
Amen.
That is, and you, of course, Jane, you understand as a former school board member, you
that's
understand
my
how
wheelhouse.
This is. There you go.
That's my wheelhouse.
Exactly. And so this is so important because it's moving those school board elections from April, when you don't have a high turnout.
11%.
Exactly. Say it again.
11%.
Exactly. That's why we needed to make this change. You don't have a high turnout, whereas in November, you have a much higher turnout, and frankly, you have some more informed voters.
Exactly.
They're very interested in the outcomes of these elections, and they should be. You know, St. Charles County is a place that I love being from. I've been there 31 years. My wife and I have been married 21 years. It'll be 21 years in a few months in October. We've got 3 children.
How many days? Kidding.
She is a jewel. Chris Wilson is an absolute jewel. If she's listening, I love you, honey. And I've got these 3 wonderful kids, Eliana, Lincoln, and Quincy. And we're an Orchard Farm family, and we're proud to be an Orchard Farm family. But I'll tell you something. When I graduated from Francis Howell North in 2001, I was very proud to be from FHN. Go Knights. I was very proud of it. But in the 25 years since then, that school board, that school, and that entire situation with that school district has changed dramatically. So much so that I really don't feel that it is on the right track at the moment. And so I'm concerned. And this is exactly what I told both the City of St. Charles school superintendent and the Orchard Farm school superintendent. I said to my superintendent, his name's Wade Steinhoff, lives a few streets over from me, and Wade's great. And I absolutely have a great relationship with him and with the administration. And I do that on purpose because I want there to be open communication. I do the same thing with City of St. Charles Superintendent Jason Seifert. I told both of them the morning that we voted on that bill, SB 1002, which was the last day of the session, May 15th, Friday, May 15th. I told both of them, I said, listen, I wanted you to hear it from me. I'm going to be voting for this. And I referenced my experience with Francis Howell. And I said, look, when I graduated, great school district. Since then, it's completely changed. You guys may be doing a great job today. And for anybody who's listening, your school district might be doing a great job today, but you have to be concerned about what could happen over the next several years and how your children might be fine right now, but your grandchildren might very well suffer the consequences, just like anybody who, you know, has grandchildren in the Francis Howell school district now. I think it's a concern. Does it still have the potential to be a good school district? Absolutely. But I think we need to have these guidelines in place to make things better, and moving those elections is an important first step to doing that.
For the most part, I will say this, for the most part, and I'm going to insult Orchard Farm at this point, and that is that I've always said that Francis Howell has the best teachers. Sorry, Fort Zumwalt. Sorry, Wentzville. Sorry, whoever. We have the best. But that being said, there are activist teachers, and those teachers need to be routed out because they do not serve children by indoctrinating their ideology into those children.
Yeah, and then you're running up against the Teachers Union, still one of the most powerful left-wing organizations in the state as well.
Yes, it is.
It's in the country, to be real honest.
Well, it's very true. And very much to your point, I had this conversation with, he was the principal of the high school. He's now the assistant superintendent, for Orchard Farm. His name's Dr. Greg Jones. And Greg and I have a very good working relationship. I value the relationship I have. And I, again, just a side note, I explained to my children, because my daughter's in the band, my son's in the band, and when I go to the football games, I often talk to Greg for a little bit, and my daughter said, Dad, why are you spending so much time talking to the principal? And I said, well, it's very simple. I said, number one, I like the guy and we're friendly, but number two, I have to have a relationship with him so that when something happens, as is most likely going to happen at some point in your high school career or your brother's high school career, or even our youngest, Quincy, there's going to be a time when I'm going to need to have a conversation. And I would encourage parents, and this is why I've always voted for things that are school choice related, because parents need to be engaged. Parents need to be able to contact their administrators, contact their teachers, and they need to be able to hold them accountable in a way as well.
And those eyes that are on the school board or started on your campaign have also gone to the school board, which is a good thing. COVID, I believe, did a lot to bring parents in to become active in their kids' education. So
as they should be. And so when Charlie Kirk was unfortunately assassinated, we all miss Charlie and we miss the influence he had. But when Charlie was assassinated, there was this wave of let's get new Turning Point chapters started in high schools and colleges across the country. And I think that's an important and wonderful thing. But, it didn't happen at Orchard Farm. And I called up Dr. Jones and I said, Greg, tell me what the story is. And he said, it's very simple. He said, I am committed to making sure that we keep our district about learning, that we focus on, the 3 R's and nothing else. And the way that we can do that is by making sure that everybody has the same answer, which in this case was no. He said, by doing that, we keep focused on what we should be. And I, of course, said, Greg, I can totally take that and I can tell that to the people and I can sell that response. And so I appreciate them being level-headed. And I know we're going to talk about more in just a few minutes. I know we're coming up on a break here.
Well, Travis, I was just going to say in the short amount of time we have left, 24 seconds, can you give a last minute, message to the voters of why they should vote for you?
Well, I appreciate that very much. I'm Travis Wilson, District 106 State Rep, been elected twice. Hope they'll put their faith in me again. I appreciate it very much. If you'd like to learn more, give me a call, 314-540-1965. Thank you so much.
You got a campaign website?
WilsonForSTC.com.
All right, that's easy enough. Travis, good to have you here. Jane, thanks for putting up with me for an hour.
Oh, no, you did. I wish you could come more often.
Don't tell Richard that.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. He's going to be listening to this, isn't he?
Thanks, guys.
Just kidding.
I'm Mike Ferguson from the morning show, filling in with
and
Jane
I'm Jane
Pushkar.
Pushkar. And thank you, Travis.
That's right. Here on St. Charles Patriot Radio on News Talk STL.